Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are. I'm Enrico from Avanscoperta, and I'm pleased to have with me Oskar Dudycz today. Hi, Oskar.
Hi, hi.
Hello.
Thank you for having me.
Our pleasure. I'm here with Oskar to discuss about his upcoming workshop on event sourcing. We'll dig into that in a second. First of all, let me remind you, you are watching or listening to Small Talk. This is our series of informal interviews where, without slides, we go through the topics of our upcoming workshops directly with the experts who will be teaching them in the coming months. So we are happy to have Oskar do the practical event sourcing workshop with us next April. We'll talk about it a lot today, plus many other things about Oskar's life and work. Feel free to drop your questions on the YouTube and LinkedIn chat as we go along. We love to read your questions. This makes us feel like we are in a room all together somehow. And of course, your curiosity are also what we really like to answer. So, Oskar, welcome to our new small talk. Would you tell us something about your upcoming workshop and what is it?
Mhm. Yeah, so I'm a huge believer that event-driven architectures and event sourcing can bring a lot into the game to our projects, like mm, observability, both technically and from the business standpoint, and also like a good synergy and reflecting our mm, business domain requirements into our code. And I was doing that for many years, starting as a regular developer, architect, manager, etc. And I saw those benefits in my projects. And through working also on the tooling like even StoreDB, Martin, Emmet, and regular projects, I gathered a lot of experience. And not only good one, we were even joking before going live that not always you can uh, like be your be the best version of you. So that's also why I thought that why I started to do those types of workshops to help people to get quickly and be more productive in working with event sourcing and getting those benefits that I mentioned. And as I always think that if of course the best way to learn is to learn on your own mistakes. That may be the best type of learning, but I don't think that this is the fastest way to learn. So I think that if at least one can learn something from my mistakes and from my past projects, then I think that that type of workshop can smoothen this journey, because unfortunately, event sourcing is too often pictured as a complex or even complicated way of building applications. And I disagree with that. I know that it can be like that, but it doesn't have to be. And that's what I want to show in during the workshop, to show like the hands-on mode. Most of the workshop will be people will get hands dirty in code and building their own application from scratch. Of course, like a bit simpler application, but still quite real world. And I think it could be a good starting point, even to include that in their projects, or maybe at least to have fun. That's also important.
Excellent, Oscar. Thank you very much. And you already shared some of the things we'll be discussing more in depth today. One of them being the workshop will be extremely hands-on. So, like all of our workshops, but this one with a particular focus on coding. So that's excellent to start with. Well, at Small Talk, we always go with the basics first. So, of course, now we asked and we got a reply of what is the workshop, but then we're talking about event sourcing. And so, what is it, if anyone is watching us and doesn't know about it, and why should we care? Why is it
Mhm.
so relevant today, in your
Yeah.
opinion?
So event sourcing is a storage pattern. It can be seen in a similar category as relational way or document way, and each type of storage has its own benefits. And the biggest benefit of event sourcing is that you are not losing the business information, because event sourcing in a nutshell works like that we are making decision like business logic or like a regular if in our code, and then as a outcome, instead of just overriding the current state, then we are storing additional information, additional fact, which is called event. And in event sourcing, the names comes from the fact that events are the source of truth. So there is no other state. So for instance, if we are modeling the guest's stay in the hotel, then we can record like guest checked in, night state, charge recorded, mm, mm, spa payment made, guest checked out. So all of those events are representing a specific facts that happened during the business workflow. And for I think majority of time in our industry, we had to optimize for the storage size. And because of that, like relational databases with normalization and trying to reduce the size of the data to not repeat all of that were really popular. But nowadays, I think that the data storage is quite cheap, relatively cheap, but the information is priceless. So the more we can keep this business context, the more we can make the better decisions and get better insights from our business workflow. So I really love the sentence made by Anita Kwame, is that event sourcing is architecting for the tomorrow's questions. I'm really jealous that I didn't come up with this sentence on my own.
Well, we'll anyway put it now in the captions because I really like it as well. Thanks, Oskar. So now, who are we talking to with this workshop? So who is it for?
So definitely this workshop is for engineers, because I'm also doing workshops more big from the big picture standpoint, so explaining event-driven architecture. And for those, I also encourage to join like product owners, UX designers. But this one is a really hands-on experience. So I would target for people that already did some application, like web API, did some business logic, etc. But you don't need to be extremely skilled developer. You might be still a junior. You might be an architect also. So as long as you can write simple code in C#, Java, or TypeScript, then you should be fine, because I will be starting and introducing all the concepts from the beginning, and we will be doing the gradual step-by-step learning experience. I think that this approach is also even good for the people that already are doing event sourcing, because I think it's a good chance to ensure that you didn't miss something, etc. But as you know, each group has its own dynamic. So if there will be more people or majority people that are more experienced, then we can go a bit faster. But yeah, I'm always trying to ensure that no one will be lost during the workshop. Maybe I can show share the screen, and I can show how the exercises look like. Yep.
We said no slides, but that didn't mean no screen. So let's go for it.
But at least some code, so
Yes.
that will be still on point. Okay, so let me open. So all of those Can you see the screen?
Yeah.
Yeah. So all of those will be Java, C# and TypeScript will have the same flow. But as you see, we will be going from the events definition, then how to get the state from events, how to append events, how to run the business logic, how to build the application logic, and then also read models, etc. And just to prove that no one will be lost, is that, for instance, this exercise starts with basic uh, modeling and putting in code your events, so not much there. But then the next exercise starts with the solution of the previous one. So don't look if you don't want to spoil the fun. But the exercises are not so important as on its own, but they are built in a way, they are like nomen omen polished throughout the years that I'm doing this workshop, that I'm putting some places to trigger the discussion. So the most important thing, besides, it's not about coding, it's about learning through coding. So because I believe that for this type of workshop, the more hands-on the better, because then you will see that it's not that hard and it's not that scary. At least that's my idea behind it. And of course we will be doing some sticky notes and basic event storming, because how can we not do it if we are here with the Evans Coperta? But jokes aside, that approach really plays well with event sourcing, because both has idea to make easier having a proper discussions. So yeah.
Awesome. So we have the full, the big picture about what we're gonna do in this workshop. So we'll have code, of course, Zoom, and some Miro board to do event storming and
Yes.
that. But one thing I really liked, and this time I was able to capture it, is not coding, but learning through coding. And not only we before mentioned that, of course, we are all fans of, learn by doing and all of that. But if there's some help of someone who already did some mistakes and can, ease the process somehow, that's cool. And also with this learning through coding idea, I think it's really effective, and folks will like it, especially because I'll stress this again. We are targeting also people at beginner stage, let's say
Yeah.
junior, whatever we want to call it, as well as folks who already know what to do, but maybe need some refresh or want to, see other perspectives, because one of the things we do, learning by coding means talking to other people that are
Exactly.
in the us. And one thing we like to do is to keep it in the range of 12, 16 people. So it's not, everyone sitting in front of a screen just watching slides or Oskar talking. So it will be extremely interactive, and therefore each one of you coming to the workshop will have a role into this.
Yeah, so definitely all the exercises are intended to be short, and I don't expect everyone to complete all of those exercises, because that's not the goal. The goal is to understand each concept, and that's not only by solving 100% this coding exercise. That's something that you can do and repeat on your own time, but this is just to show practically how that works. And as you said, having a proper discussions, asking questions, and having those questions triggered, because I really believe that at least it works for me, that coding is also a form of design. So that's at least how I see it.
That would be a topic of another discussion altogether. I really liked it, so we'll keep it for the future, definitely. Now, each one of our trainers had a story of, either solving problems and at one point someone asked them to do something, or they just felt natural to start teaching. So, how did it start for you? Why are you doing this workshop?
Yeah, so the I somehow always wanted to teach, like to teach. Maybe because my father and my grandparents were always telling me that I should help others to learn, and sometimes I was even helping during like primary school my friends. Um, but about even sourcing in general, I really struggled at the beginning. So all of that started with I read so many articles, watched all of the Greg Young's talks, etc. That was like 8 or 9 years ago. So there was much less resources than it is right now. And then I finally got the chance to use event sourcing in my project. And I thought like, this is my moment. But then I started to design and work on this application, and I realized that I have no idea what I'm doing. So for me, it was that of course, my first thought was, this event sourcing is terrible. Why someone invented that? But then I thought, okay, so many smart people are doing it, then probably that's something wrong with me. Maybe both. But I'm a type of grinder. I not necessarily recommend being that type of person, but I always try to push myself to at least ensure that I'm not doing something wrong. So then I started to learn and doing small exercises, sharing that in public, and I also started to be more active on the Martin Gitter at that time. Martin is one of the tools that I eventually was also co-creating in a .NET space for event sourcing, and I saw that people were having the same issues that I had, and I started to answer them with the solutions that I found, and it appeared that those solutions were helpful for the people. And step by step, doing baby steps, I realized that maybe my journey, my findings, my knowledge about the tools can help other people to make it easier. Plus, I think it was also some kind of challenge for me, because I saw that in my projects that even sourcing doesn't have to be that hard, doesn't have to be that scary. And it's kind of also addicting that when you start to do that, then and you get your aha moment, then it's you just want to continue doing it. So maybe I wanted to show people that it doesn't have to be as it mostly pictured. I don't know, probably a mixture of everything. So and in the end, of course, because I was co-maintaining Martin for a few years, I was working at Event Store, now called Current after rebranding, and I also building Node.js tool Emmet. So I also wanted to teach people how to use this application, those tools correctly. So that was my main motivation. But I just truly believe that event sourcing should have wider usage. It is a niche approach, but should be much broader niche. It shouldn't be that small, because it can help many and many projects. I'm not. Yeah, just one last sentence. Sorry for my monologue, but I'm not in the team to say that you should do event sourcing in all possible places. But definitely there are many places where it can be extremely useful, and people could benefit out of that.
So I would ask you straight. I had another question, but I'll ask you. So what are those places? Where would you recommend
Mhm,
that?
mhm,
Where is event sourcing a game changer?
mhm. Yeah, so definitely those places where we have business workflows that are maybe a bit more complex than 2 or 3 steps,
Hmm.
uh, or workflows that are just important from the business perspective, because this extended tracing, not losing any information, uh, is super helpful. I think that in general, I don't see a domain where it couldn't work, but definitely those that are related more to processing workflows, etc. This is definitely useful. Of course, most of the time it says that financial domain is really great for that, because accounting, like even sourcing, works as accounting. I even heard the joke that Hammurabi invented event sourcing when he invented the first accounting
That
stuff.
sounds like a DDT Borat kind of thing.
That could be. That could be. I don't remember. Maybe Greg Young told that. I don't remember who was the author. But D.D. Borat also sounds like a possible person. Uh, so definitely financial domain is an obvious choice, but I wouldn't just lock in event sourcing in that type
Hmm.
of uh, I see a lot of medical projects because they need to have this strict audit log are using. But in general, this area of your system that can benefit from getting more insights from your data, for having some business workflows, that's a great place. Or if we are talking to engineers, then this business logic that looks like a state machine, uh, that's potentially a really good candidate for using event sourcing.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Oscar. And my question that I had before was about actually what are or is the biggest factor of resistance when
Hmm.
folks want to not only when they want to start, but also when they are starting and they want to use it in their company. Because one
Mhm.
thing is to do it for, I don't know, your project or you're a small team, but you're talking about finance, medical, and
Mhm.
of course, we are not probably talking about the whole hospital or what's not, but definitely a few departments. So, why is it difficult if it is difficult?
Mhm. So there are multiple factors to that. I think, as Gerald Weinberg said, mostly it's a people's problem, as everything. Uh, of course, I don't want to say that people just intentionally don't want to use event sourcing. That's not how it goes. But as I mentioned, it is some sort of a niche. So many people just prefer to choose the boring tech stack, which is a good decision in general, to just stick with your favorite tooling. But too often, that's also, of course, limiting, because you might not benefit as much as you could. And even sourcing knowledge is not spreaded enough, so there are not enough people uh, teaching about event sourcing and writing. It's changing. I think that right now we have much more than when I was starting, but it's still a matter also of lack of the good resources, but it's better. But the other factor is that event sourcing for many years was also pictured wrongly. So instead of focusing on streamlining workflows, representing your business workflow in code, registering all your facts, and making decision, then for many years it was somehow conflated with stuff like messaging, DDD, and I think for many years it was shown like the highest level of enlightenment. Like I'm joking, like at first you need to learn whole DDD, like whole DDD, everything, then everything about distributed systems, etc. And because when people were looking at the resources about event sourcing, then they were thinking that, okay, that's really cool, but I won't ever be that smart, or I won't ever have such a big project to work with event sourcing. And I think that's a false narrative, because event sourcing can be really accessible. It can bring a lot of fun and make many things even simpler, but we need to approach it in like an open head, which means that another factor, we need to unlearn some stuff and some past ways that we were doing. And if we don't do that, then and try to apply one by one all those past uh, techniques, then not necessarily they will work well with event sourcing. So I think that all of that can, for the person that is seeing event sourcing for the first time and getting all this buzz and potential, it's hard to filter out what you don't need at the beginning, or when is it needed to apply the specific techniques, etc. So that's also why I'm doing this workshop, to show this a bit simpler and more pragmatical knowledge about event sourcing. So I think that you can learn also as you go. So starting simple and then add stuff from DDD, from distributed systems when you need it.
Awesome. So as you mentioned in the beginning, maybe where you started 10, 15 years ago, there was not that many resources, but now including with your workshop and your work, which we'll talk about in a second, you are trying to make it on one hand more available, and on the other hand, maybe also more digestible, meaning that it's not black magic anymore. It never was, of course, but we've heard this about DDD, that at one point, especially at the beginning, was something a bit obscure somehow, whereas now there's, I wouldn't say plenty of stuff, but definitely more resources available, which is great. So thanks for all the insight. We are reaching the end, more or less. If you folks following us have any questions, this is the right time. I have a few more questions for Oskar. One of them is, okay, we've been talking a lot about event sourcing, but what is the pain point we are aiming to solve? Not with event sourcing, but probably with your workshop. So why should folks come along?
So I think that the pain point business wise is, I mentioned already, observability, easier debugging, easier testing, understanding complex systems. I think event sourcing can help in that. But who maybe also who can join and who should be interested is in general everyone, but that's a bad answer. So definitely folks that are starting or started their way in event sourcing. So if they see that in their project they are already thinking about or doing, and would like to be sure that they didn't miss anything, that they are on the right track, and or maybe just learn more about the tools like even StoreDB, Mart, and Emmet, then that's a great way to do it. But also for new people, because even I think that in the current shape of our IT industry, you need to somehow have knowledge that is outlier to the other people, because the and in my opinion, event sourcing can be such thing, because it's maybe a niche, as I said, but it's growing, boiling underneath the surface. So I think that knowing this event sourcing pattern, even if you currently are not using that in your project, then can be also an important aspect and an eye opener. And also I will be touching stuff like CQRS, vertical slices, event-driven architecture and business workflows. So there is an overlap also to the traditional way of building applications. So I think that if someone is interested in this area, then that can be also a good way. And for those folks that know me and are curious how I do stuff, then this workshop is the outcome of my journey, my personal journey. And but it won't be only biased, because I will show different ways and different flavors of how you can do stuff.
And talking about your journey, and this will be our last for today, I wanted to touch briefly upon your career, I would call it, or just activity as a blog writer. I mean, there's a lot of folks who are writing every now and then, but we've noticed your consistency, and that's really cool. So, how does that work? What keeps you motivated? When did you start? And what's the feedback you've been receiving?
Mm. Yeah, so just one one side note. Career, Robert Lewandowski has career. I'm just a humble developer. But yeah, to the point. I've I always like to write. I don't know why, but I always like to write. I like to do creative stuff. Coding, probably that's also why I like coding. But about blogging, I started quite long time ago, like I don't know, 12 years ago, and writing my Polish blog. But at the beginning, and for majority of my, let's say, as you said, blogging career, then I wasn't consistent. I was just blogging once per year or twice per year. But what helped me is instead of thinking what great stuff I can write and what great stuff I can uh, provide some information, uh, I inverted the thinking about blogging. So I said like, okay, so this is Friday, and I would like to every week write something. So let's say that I have right now 6 hours in Friday, and instead of trying to build like a really great huge article, then I started to think what useful I can write about within that time. So instead of trying to invent something, then I started to search what question did I answer, what interesting stuff that I do. And it doesn't have to be something extremely innovative or totally brand new. I think that if someone asked you how you do a certain thing and you manage to help that person, then that's a high chance that there are more people like this one person that can also benefit from that. And even if someone else wrote about it, show a better way, uh, then this is your way. So if someone would like to start writing, then I'm just writing for myself, and I'm writing because I forget. Uh, so it's you never know. Some articles that I wrote that I was thinking are like one of my best one, not many people read them. Some that I just created within 2 hours were those that are most read. So you never know. You won't ever guess who will be reading it. But if we build this consistency, it doesn't have to be every week, maybe every other week, every month. But for me, this inversion helped me. And I also started in the meantime to somehow, when I'm discussing someone in some chat and I help them, then writing that somewhere in a private GitHub repo or Notion or other place. And then if you gather many similar answers like that, then that can be already a good starting point for a blog article. So yeah, that would be my advice.
Awesome. Thanks, Oscar. So basically, it's a matter of documenting what you've been already doing rather than, uh, I already said
Yeah,
career thing, which was weird. Now I'll say another something like, I don't know, reinventing the wheel, or
yeah,
writing
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
uh, mind
I
blowing.
not.
And
Mhm. I noticed that many people are struggling, and I was also struggling because I had idea that I think it's great, but then when I sit in front of computer, then I realize I won't ever make it today. So
yeah,
plus the good thing is at the beginning, no one will read what someone just started to writing. So and that's a great chance to make mistakes, write something wrongly. You can always amend it and change it. So yeah.
super. I think that's awesome advice. Thanks for that. Because that also, releases the burden of, oh Jesus, what do I have to invent today, or put something from
Mhm.
scratch. You have some content, and you just use it because it's there already. So that's a really good thinking. And with this, we close for today. Thank you very much, Oscar. It's been a very nice chat, and I hope you folks liked it as well. We'll see each other in about 2 months from now. It's a remote workshop called Practical Event Sourcing. I'll just have this one here as we wave goodbye. Anything else you want to add?
No, just if you watch it, feel invited, or just write to me. What are your thoughts? Happy to clarify if you're curious, or if you are would like to get more information than what is on a website. My DMs on social sites are open, so feel free to reach me out. And thank you for having me here.
Thanks a lot, Oscar, and to the next one.
Yeah,